Welcome to another podcast episode, Just Elite Podcast. And with me today is Taylor Williamson, 1/4 of the fittest team in the world, CrossFit Mayhem. Congratulations on a dominant performance at this year's CrossFit Games.
Hi, thank you so much. It's great to get to chat with you today.
Taylor, tell us about the general experience at the Games. It was a long week, lots of events, but if you can just summarize it for us, if at all possible.
Yeah, general experience, obviously a lot of volume. Also a lot of fun. This year was actually really fun. We started out with 4 events on Thursday, so kind of coming out hot, I'd say. So waking up Friday, I think we were all pretty wrecked, like more so than we thought or anticipated. But the rest of the weekend was pretty, I think, went as expected as far as how our bodies felt and kind of how the weekend went on. But it was a really good time this year.
It was a big change this year, moving from OC3, from your previous team to CrossFit Mayhem. There was also a little bit of drama in the beginning of the year with the announcement of the new team. Going back a few months ago, can you tell us about that time, the announcement coming out? It was very public, being CrossFit Mayhem. It's the most well-known team in the world, and joining that, tell us about what happened in the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue was that CrossFit didn't announce all the rules and the details of the rules until after they were in place. So I think that actually was an issue for a lot of teams out there, but we were probably the most public of all the issues just because it was CrossFit Mayhem. But they didn't tell about the affiliation rules and the exact qualifications for that until I think it was like January 8th or something, but they were in effect January 1. So that was like a big, I think, a little bit of a mistake on their part. So hopefully this year they will correct that. But yeah, that was the big drama at the beginning, but we got it all sorted out and we were fine. We all moved into the area and everything, but I think that was a big struggle for a lot of teams out there starting out that way.
And for you personally, moving into a new town, I know you also moved there for your studies for different reason as well, but that move for you, going to a new team with a little bit of, drama on the side with your studies, how did that affect you?
Yeah, so I moved 6 months prior to the start of the team. So I've kind of been in the area for a while, doing school stuff. So that was my life for a while. I actually wasn't anticipating on competing this year at all because I was pretty engrossed in school here. But the opportunity presented itself and I was like, well, heck, why not? I mean, I still enjoy it and it seems like a great opportunity, even though Mayhem had been, enemies for so long. So it's just kind of ironic for both Andrea and I, my teammate, being against Mayhem for so long and then kind of flipping sides. But it's been a really good experience. And I know I can speak for myself and for her. There are no regrets there. We've really had a great time and been very welcomed. It wasn't weird or hostile in any way. So that's been great. It's actually been kind of fun. And we've been able to kind of poke fun at a lot of situations. One of the events that we beat Mayhem at, Rich has the I think they got third at that event in Rogue. He has the belt thing that they gave him right there by the door in his barn. And I'm always like, haha, that was a great event. Just little things like that. It's been good.
Tell us about your studies. You're in PA school, right?
Yes, I'm in PA school. So it's physician's associate.
Yes. So tell us about that. How far are you into that? Is that something that you weren't planning on competing this year, but obviously training takes a lot of your time. But PA school can't be a walk in the park either.
No, it's actually super intense. It's very fast paced. So they expect you to learn a lot in a really small amount of time. I started in September. I'll be done with classwork this December, and then I'll have a year of rotations and clinicals after that. So I think it's 6 weeks at a time in different specialties to kind of get some hand-on experience with a couple exams in there. But all the crazy tests, 3 or 4 week and homework and everything, that'll be done in December. So light at the end of the tunnel. But yeah, they pretty much when I was interviewing for the school, they were like, hey, you're not going to be allowed to compete anymore because it's going to be you need to promise this right now. You're going to give this up because this is going to take up all your time, all your energy. You won't be able to handle it. So I took that to heart. Yeah, okay, they're right. There's no way, this can't be done. There's absolutely no way. Because it's more than a full-time job. You're in school 40 hours and then on top of that, you have to learn everything. So, but then I got to thinking about it, I already have a pretty good base in fitness. I can maybe work out a little less and still be fine. And Like, I don't really want other people to tell me what I can or can't do. You know what I mean? Because they don't even know me. So I kind of felt it out, started training a little more after school started, and thought I might be able to swing it. So here we are.
Well, I mean, that's a big promise to make someone that, like you said, you
Yeah.
don't even know, or they don't even know you. So that must have been big for you to go, okay, Yana, I'll give this up. And CrossFit has been a part of your life for a very long time. You've been to the games from 2016, had very big success with the other teams. So that couldn't have been an easy decision.
No, it was kind of heartbreaking, I think, in a lot of ways, just because I do enjoy it so much and it has been a part of my life for so long. So it's been really satisfying, and just it makes me really happy that I was able to do both. Obviously, I'm choosing and have chosen to put my studies and my career first, because that's like where my heart ultimately lies, is in like a successful future and being able to treat people and help people in the medical field. But I'm just really happy that I'm able to maintain this hobby, because it's something I really love.
I mean, it sounds like you were breaking the rules. You made this promise, and then you decided to go ahead anyway. Did you
Yeah.
have to have a discussion with the school about your decision, or you just like
Oh, yeah.
do it on the side?
No, I had to back in January, right after I committed to the team, actually. So I committed first and then decided to try to make it work somehow. But I had to like get a bunch of like letters of recommendation from my old bosses, and like fill out a bunch of paperwork and go and talk to like the school board. And like I had to like jump through a lot of hoops. I had to write a paper thing, like a statement basically. Had to have all of the dates that I would need off. I only got 2 days. I only got 2 days approved. So 2 days off for games, basically. And then we went to MAC, which was in Knoxville, so it was local for me, so I was able to make that work. But yeah, it was hard.
I mean, Taylor, there must have been a spotlight on you making this decision after they told you not to really perform in your studies, and they were probably looking at your performance in class and your marks and so on.
Yeah, that was actually like a huge consideration for me too, knowing that maybe I was going to compete. Starting up school, I made sure that I didn't have any like bad grades, basically. So it was like always a thought going into every exam at the end of the quarter or whatever it may be, like I have a little bit more writing here, so I can't really get a C, or I don't really want any B's, because I know that if I go and ask later if I can compete, these are things they're going to look at.
Yeah,
So it's
definitely.
always kind of been in the back of my mind, I guess, and a little bit of a motivator to just make sure I had all my ducks in a line. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely felt like I knew I was going to be on a and like a magnifying glass later.
And then with all this going on, being told you're not allowed to, and then deciding to do it anyway, and then joining the most dominant and most well-known team in the world with Rich, that must have been really, really stressful. That's a lot of things to have, going on at one time.
Yeah, absolutely. You're telling me. Um, but honestly, it's just at the end of the day, I think just reminding yourself that these are like choices, and you're not being forced to do anything. It's something that I want to be doing. And the fact that like I really can walk away from CrossFit at any point, that's kind of makes it better. Like I'm not being forced to do this. This isn't my job. This isn't like something I have to do to support myself. Like this is something I just really like to do. So it just puts you in a little bit different mindset, if that makes sense. And just taking everything one day at a time. Like it's super easy if you look at like a week of time to feel very overwhelmed, because there's just so much going on. But if you just take it like one day at a time, it feels like less, and it's everything is more like accomplished a goal, you know?
And I mean, it was worth it at the end of the day, standing on the podium
Yeah,
with your teammates, with the
absolutely.
affiliate cup. Tell us about that moment, when looking back, standing there and realizing everything was worth it, and you made the right decision, and it's over now, but it was a success.
Yeah, it just felt like a huge like relief, I guess, and it really did feel um I don't know, it just felt like it was a huge accomplishment, especially given all of the like struggles that I personally had trying to do both these things at once. So it felt a little bit more satisfying, I think, than if I wouldn't have been in school, or you know what I mean? Just very this is a really happy moment.
I mean, talking to you now and juggling all of these things, you'd think this is the life of somebody that's single, but you're engaged actually. Where do you fit everything in? Like, when do you sleep?
Yeah, there's actually absolutely no way I would have been able to do all this stuff if I was single. Um, I would probably not have time to eat or make food, or there's just so many things behind the scenes that my fiance helped me to like figure out how to maintain time for. Like I would just be studying at night and he would like bring me food. You know what I mean? So I had to take a step back as far as like contributing to a lot of things. So it's nice to kind of have some more time for that now that the games are over. But yeah, I think definitely, unfortunately, but we both knew this going in. Relationship stuff, friend stuff, it all kind of took a back burner for a while.
But I mean, Nick, your fiance, just for the listeners and people watching on YouTube, he's also involved in CrossFit. It's not that he's completely removed from this in a different industry. He programs, but also for a rival program, if I can say, he's with the Proven team.
Yeah, he's one of their coaches at Proven. He does most of the programming for the online tracks.
Yeah.
So it's actually been really nice because he definitely understands. He understands my goals and he understands like day to day, probably more than anyone else, like what I have going on and what it takes to kind of make it to that level as an athlete. So, you know, he's able to understand where I'm going. And he's actually really excited about all of this. He likes to see me compete, which makes me feel good.
Mm. I mean, being with a different, you know, company, the Proven team, they do online programming worldwide, and you've got the Mayhem programming also worldwide. Is there a little bit of a competition, like, oh, I don't know, you know, mine is bigger than yours, you know?
You know, no, not really, honestly. I know it's also very ironic because they are like direct competitors, but Tia and Shane, they're amazing people. I mean, I've gone and worked out with Tia a number of times this season and just always been very welcome. Nick's came to the barn with me, to Rich's, number of times, same story. So, I mean, yeah, they're rivals, but at the end of the day, it's CrossFit. All of it is CrossFit. You know what I mean? And it's really nice actually to have Nick around just because, you know, if I ever need a workout quick or anything like that, or what's proven, you know what I mean? So it's all just a good bank of information, I think, to have access to.
Yeah. Talk to us about Andrea, your teammate that moved over with you to CrossFit Mayhem. Was that a little bit of a relief having that teammate with you that you know so well? You guys are known as one of the most, you know, dominant female pair in a team competition, moving into a different setting, even though you guys were rivals with Mayhem in the past. It's a whole new ball game, getting to know 3 other people. Well, now it was just 2 other people.
Yeah. It's absolutely, I told her so many times this season, like, hey, I'm so glad we're here together. I'm glad we're doing this together. I think just the fact that we've been together for so many years makes it much easier in the competition floor because we already know each other so well. Mm. And we kind of know each other like outside of that too, like what sorts of anxieties we'll have or like what events we'll do bad at or good at. So it just makes the learning curve that much better because it's less to have to like try to figure out. We know each other so well.
Was there any form of pressure that you felt, not necessarily put on you, you know, deliberately, but being part of CrossFit Mayhem, the history, the amount of affiliate cups they've won, to go in and now the eyes were on Mayhem. You know, it's a brand new team. In 2020, the teams didn't get to compete. When now it was, okay, the eyes are on me. We need to perform because, and you know, Rich wants to bring home the cup again.
Yeah. I think the really unique thing about this team is that Andrew, Rich, and I, and you know, we all have so much like internal motivation and internal pressure that I don't think anything from the outside was more than that because we're all so self-motivated and we all like have been around so long that we know what it takes basically to be our best version of an athlete. That I didn't really feel much from the outside as far as like expectations or like, don't mess up, you'll let Mayhem down. Cause it's really just more like, I hold myself to a very high standard and I know Andrew is the same, that it didn't feel that way. And Rich is great. Like he doesn't like put any sort of like negative pressure. He's a good teammate, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And training at CrossFit Mayhem, I'm not talking about just the team training, but there's so many well-known, successful, accomplished athletes that come from the barn. Mm-hmm. You know, there's something in the waters there at, you know, where CrossFit Mayhem is. Tell us about the whole atmosphere training with so many accomplished athletes.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot different than a lot of the situations I've been in the past in training, just because I've usually like had a job or whatever. So I've been training alone a lot. So it was kind of nice to have like a big crew of people and you're going against people all the time and it's competitive, or even just like trading off one-to-one. Like it's different and you end up going a lot harder just because of the competitiveness and just the atmosphere itself. So it was really nice for me to have like such a big crew to work out with so consistently. A lot of talent, honestly, a lot of talent in there.
There definitely is a lot of talent there. You know,
Yeah,
it's very well known in the media, and because of the media team that is at CrossFit Mayhem, everybody knows about what goes, well, gets a glimpse of what actually happens at the barn. Training during the pandemic, you know, it's hard. The whole world, we're all in the same position. That self-motivation, when the days that you have to train on your own, that you don't necessarily get to train with your teammates, how do you, and I had actually to ask this question because it's not about, you're not always going to be motivated and want to, but training on your own in a time where everything is going to shit, what do you do, you know, to get yourself just to pick it up and, you know, pick up the bar and just go?
Yeah, it just comes down to the habits you've created, I think. And just like leaning into like the discipline, I guess, that you have. And then if you fall off or you skip a day or whatever, don't dwell on that. Just move on. Just move on and go back to that underlying habit that you have. Because at the end of the day, like, we all know how to get up and work out every day and take care of ourselves. It's not brain science. You just have to like take one small step at a time and make it happen. Do the right things. Which I know it can be a lot harder said or done than said, especially in pandemic situations. And maybe we're all working out in our own backyards or, you know, on our porches, but just do what you can with what you have. That's the most that we can do, I think, in those kinds of situations.
I mean, Taylor, you speak about habits creating, well, the habits that we create for ourselves, is specifically in CrossFit. And we are a bunch of people that get addicted to this sport. I think it's a certain type of person that enjoys the amount of pain that we put ourselves through, even if you're just, you know, everyday person that does a class here and there. But your habits didn't start just with CrossFit. Tell us a bit about your history in fitness and in sport. It didn't start just in 2016 when you went to the games.
Yeah, I've pretty much been an athlete in some way, shape, or form my whole life. Did a lot of like running as a, I guess, middle schooler. Volleyball, basketball, track. I played college volleyball and a little bit of track in college also. And I started CrossFit as a way to try to get in shape for volleyball. So I've always kind of been into team sports and always been into just like being athletic in general. I was always like the girl that was lifting with the guys in high school and like never had a problem with it. Wasn't scared of like getting sweaty or looking bad or any of that. So I don't know if that's just because I'm weird or whatever, but it's always kind of been my thing. I enjoy the process. I enjoy the training and I enjoy like team sports, I guess. So yeah.
And the first box that you joined, when you said you tried it out to get yourself into shape, and that happens a lot. A lot of top athletes in different sports, you know, dabble in CrossFit for different reasons, and then end up completely committing to the sport. So where did you join? How did you find out about the sport? Because obviously it's very big in America and it's been there for quite some time.
Yeah. I joined back in, I would have been the summer of 2012. And it actually wasn't even a CrossFit box. It was, now it is, but back then it was out of my friend's garage at her home. Wow. Christina Spencer in Junction City, Kansas. So now she owns Junction City CrossFit, well-established business. But yeah, I was there for, I guess, the grassroots version in her garage. But yeah, we worked on some workouts and different movements, and she taught me what a snatch was, and I did pull-ups with a green band. And I mean, I learned how to turn upside down at all, period, in her garage. So it was very entry level, I'd say, but always had like the athleticism behind me. I just had to learn all the stuff. And I think I was so intrigued by it to begin with, just because it was so much stuff I didn't know how to do, but I knew I could learn how to do. So it was just like that very early progression of being able to see a lot of improvement. And it was that thing that addicted me. So I like see myself improving every time I come back, or being able to lift more or whatever, you know. People that like to get better, I think, find themselves attracted to things they can get better at.
A lot of athletes, especially the people that I get to talk to, you know, they go team and then they go individual. What drew you to going into a team first? Or not first? I mean, you've been doing the team thing since the beginning.
Yeah, it's always just kind of been my choice. It's kind of just been my thing. And I think finding good teammates along the way has kept it something I enjoy doing. So like Andrew and I have been together for so long, and it feels like we're pretty good at it. So I don't really want to stop doing that.
Mm.
And I just enjoy being out there with the team more. It just makes it more fun. I think the workouts are more fun. They're more challenging in a lot of ways. Um, but it's just a better atmosphere, I think. Even just behind the scenes, I like the team comp more.
Mm. I have to ask, you were also around and you competed at the games when we still had the old format of 6 people in a team, and then they changed it to 4 people. Your experience in that change, was it welcoming in the beginning? Did you worry about it? And, how did you accept it?
I think at the time I didn't really put much thought into it, but I think it made the teams much more competitive, because it was obviously less people that you had to get together. So that in itself makes it more competitive. And then there was like less room to hide in workouts. So there was less moving parts. So there weren't as many like non-working parts, I guess. So that also makes it more competitive just because it's more more involved, I think. So in those ways, I think it was really exciting and I liked it a lot. But I didn't really think about it much at the time.
Yeah.
Now that we're team of 4, though, I absolutely want to keep it team of 4. I think it's better that way.
You say there's less, place to hide, and especially your weaknesses, because it's teams of 4. And we've seen with the programming lately, there's a lot of 4, but all the teammates doing a certain movement at the same time. We had the 4 of you doing chest to bars, which was amazing to watch, by the way. And everybody needs to do, the handstand push-ups. Talk to us about, training that in the box, especially because Mayhem is so known for, being so efficient with the worm and the communication skills and so on.
Yeah, so I think that any team is only as fit as its least fit member. So obviously you have to keep working on like yourself as an individual. So every teammate is going to be a pretty good individual as well, honestly. But then whenever all 4 of us were together, whenever our schedules matched up, you work on team stuff. So you work on synchro stuff, a lot of worm, so that when the time comes out there, it's kind of second nature. So you kind of have to maintain both. So you have to have the skills on a team, the synchro, the like background knowledge of how your teammates are going to react in certain situations, or like body language awareness. But then also you have to be really fit as an individual so that you're not the limiter, if that makes sense. And every workout kind of has one person where it's like, okay, well, this is going to be hardest for Andrea and Taylor because it's running or whatever it may be. But just to kind of close those gaps and try to make everything as even across the board as you can. I think that's what then makes the fittest team possible, is when there aren't like huge outliers in any way. Yeah.
When you train as an individual, obviously you can train when you want to, when your schedule allows it. But being 4 people, obviously it's difficult for everybody's schedules to align, especially if you don't do it full time and you have studies or jobs. So how do you guys actually sit down with your schedule and say, okay, fine, this is when we can train, this is how many hours we expected to train together in a week, so we are effective and we get in the time that we need?
Yeah, it was pretty much I was there like Thursday night, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So that was pretty much my availability. And then from there it just kind of depended what family events were going on, such stuff like that. But Rich pretty much lives there. He works out all the time.
Of course.
So he's pretty much available anytime. And then from there, it kind of went on like when's Taylor going to be in town, and then what Chase has going on for family stuff. So it worked out pretty well as far as time commitments go, though, because I think we all were able to, at least to some degree, prioritize the training as much as we can.
Yeah. Take us back to all the way back when you got that phone call, message, or whatever from Rich saying, "Okay, Taylor, how about it? You want to join the main team?"
Yeah, I think my first thought was no, probably. Yeah, but because I had actually spoken with Chase a little bit when I first moved, because I was at his gym a lot, kind of working out with him. So he was like, "Yeah, I don't know. Rich might have a team next year. What are you thinking?" And I was like, "No, I don't think so." But then, yeah, when the offer was eventually extended, I think I had thought about it enough as like a possible thing. I was ready to maybe make the move. And then I think Andrea hopping on board probably sealed the deal for me. So.
And I have to ask, why was the first thought no? Was it because they're the rivals or your studies?
Probably,
or
yeah.
I have to know. I have to ask.
I mean, the study thing makes more sense, but probably just the spite of it, the fact that I don't want to be a part of Mayhem, Yeah.
So much politics in CrossFit, so much politics with the teams. Yeah, yeah, but it's great that that both you and Andrea and Chase, made that move. It was amazing to watch the team perform. So going forward, Taylor, you obviously in school, you were told not to do CrossFit. You're a rebel. You did it anyway. It was successful. So going forward, you're graduating in December. What's the plan going forward? Is CrossFit going to be on the back burner now? Are you reevaluating? Are you still deciding? What does it look like?
I don't know. That's a great question. I think the best answer for that right now is reevaluating and still deciding. It's going to depend on a couple things, I think. So I hope they announced the rules earlier this year so we can kind of plan some stuff, but it'll depend on the rule book. It'll depend on where my clinical rotations are next year, because I don't have a whole lot of control over that. And then it's just kind of depend on whether or not I think I want to make the sacrifice again. But I mean, at this point, I'm pretty much addicted. So we'll see. There's a lot of factors at play, I guess.
There's quite a few athletes, CrossFit Games athletes that go to PA school. I know Steph Chung also, and Emily Rolfe, if I'm not mistaken. So it's quite a popular. Say again?
Yeah, I think Emily is an X-ray tech or a nurse, but also medical oriented. And yes, Stephanie Chung, I think I've heard she's in PA school also.
Yeah. So the decision in the future, because I know you said you're not completely sure, you're still kind of on the fence. There's a lot of things that still need to come into play. But looking, let's say 4 or 5 years into the future, luckily, the lucky thing or the wonderful thing about our sport is you can do it forever. We saw the masters compete, and it's always so nice to see them, and it gives me a little reassurance knowing that we can do this forever. Looking into the future 5 years from now, is this something that you can maintain for a long time? Let's say you have the time and you decide to do this full time. Is it maintainable?
I think definitely CrossFit as an activity, yes, very maintainable. As a sport, I'm not sure. I guess we have to wait and find out. Just a lot of factors there at play also. I mean, injuries, which I'm healthy, but you never know. And then just like desire to keep competing, lifestyle, what trade-offs there are, families. I mean, so I think I think you have to consider that on a very individual basis and look at their life and sacrifices and health as a whole to be able to decide if the sport is able to be done 10, 15 years in a row. So, but I think it is doable.
You're one of a lot of athletes that I've recently had the privilege to talk to that has a balanced life. It's not just CrossFit. And I think the mindset the past few years as the sport is growing and the margin of the fitness is just, it's crazy, and the strength and so on going up. The thought process is that this should be your everything. CrossFit should be what you eat, what you sleep, what you drink, what you think, everything the whole day to be able to perform at that level, and especially to win. You're one of a lot of athletes that I've spoken to that's managing some form of balance. Does it make it harder to try and balance everything?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's hard to compete against or compete with or be around athletes that are able and that choose to make this their full-time job and main commitment in life, just because I'm not able to do all the recovery stuff that they do, or I didn't get the extra workouts in, or even just being very rushed in the gym with my time, not warming up well, just small things like that. I mean, so yeah, it is a little bit frustrating internally, I think, at times, because these are the people that I'm being compared to on the competition floor, but then behind the scenes, it feels like I have it harder, you know what I mean? But I think that at the end of the day, I wouldn't have it any other way, just because I do like having a balanced life, and I like being able to step away from CrossFit and have friends outside of CrossFit and have other things going on. So yeah, and it's not something I'd ever complain about because it's the way that I like it. But you do have to take a step back at times and realize that you're going to be at a disadvantage a lot of the time competitively. And sometimes that'll show and sometimes it won't, but that's just kind of a choice you have to make. You know what I mean?
Being on a team that's so well known, was there some form of guilt when you couldn't make a training session or you didn't get an extra workout in, and fear of, I'm going to let my team down?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's very motivating, for me anyway. And it's not coming from other people. No one ever like made me feel bad. It's just, again, circling back to like having really high standards for yourself, and holding yourself accountable to having to get the things done that you know need to be done. So yeah, but at the end of the day, you kind of also make time for it because it's important to you. So
Mm.
maybe I missed, the training session at the barn that morning, but I get done with school and then go do it in my garage late at night. Like I'll still make it happen. It just won't be as easy or in as ideal of a situation as others.
Mm.
So, you know.
Your opinion on the coverage and the attention of the individual as athletes compared to the team athletes and sponsorships and so on. Do you think it's balanced? Do you think there can be improvements?
I mean, there can definitely be some improvements. And I think a lot of that might come when we get more of the individuals into the team aspect. So maybe going back to the super teams or announcing the rules earlier so that people can move and make their own teams as affiliates.
Mm.
But yeah, it's definitely at this point not very well balanced. The
Mm.
opportunities aren't really there for teams. So I hope that's something that the sport improves or changes in the future, just
Mm.
for the team's sakes. You know what I mean?
Mm. CrossFit has, from 2019, things have constantly changed. It's been a whirlwind for 2 years now, where changes were made and it just hasn't stopped. Nothing has settled. Nothing has been the same. Yes, 2020, obviously, the world pandemic had a big influence on that.
Yeah.
You being a competitive athlete, being on a team, different teams, and being so successful, would you want a more structured season like we had from the beginning up till 2018, where you knew open regionals games, that was it? Was that something that you would prefer?
I think I actually kind of preferred the sanctional style just because it did allow for so many more like money making opportunities, I
Mm.
think, for athletes. So I think you would be able to see more people shift into the realm of doing like being an athlete full time because they're then able to support themselves. So I think it would make the sport grow as a whole just because more people are able to do it, and not, you know, have to have other jobs or whatever the case may be. So I kind of like the sanctional season a little bit more. But as far as just like the layout, as long as it's like very straightforward and very like planned, I think I'm personally fine with it either way.
Mm.
But they just need to make sure that they give information early, I think, is
Mm.
the biggest thing.
Yeah.
I'd love to see sanctionals come back though. I think it was a great format.
Yeah, I think it was a big shock for a lot of people initially, because I think 2019 was so, yeah, it just feels like the mat was pulled from underneath, the most of the
Yeah.
CrossFit community, and just like all of a sudden, all of these changes, and the rule book on who could make it to the games was so confusing for me. Like you had to have a PhD to understand who the hell can actually
Very.
make it to the games, and at the end it was like, okay, so everybody makes it to the games. So but it was, when you can stand back and look at it, it was brilliant, because so many other countries and athletes got the opportunity to compete at a higher level. And I think at the end of the day, especially for countries where CrossFit is still growing, it's a good opportunity for those athletes to compete against the best in the world. You had Catherine David's daughter and a bunch of Andrea Bocelli and so on that came out to South Africa, and our athletes got to compete
Yep.
against them and see, okay, but this is how far we are behind, and this is what we need to do, to get on that level. So I personally think it was a big shock initially, but it was a great format. And
Yeah.
hopefully
I couldn't agree more.
with the world settling down and things coming back to normal, there will be a more definite idea of what the season will look like. Will it be semifinals again? Because it just feels,
Yeah.
since 2018, the start of 2019, getting to the games every single year is just, you don't actually even know what's going to happen. Does that make it difficult for
Yeah.
you as an elite athlete to plan your season, not knowing
Yeah,
what the season
absolutely.
is?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think anyone at this level, they do some kind of like off season. At least you should, for it to be sustainable. So you kind of have to know, like, okay, when is my off season? When am I allowed to kind of take a step back, let my body rest, let my mind rest, and then when do I need to kind of kick it into gear? So without being, well informed going into it, it's kind of difficult to know like when you need to try to peak or whatever the case may be. So yeah, I think um, information early and like a set schedule is pretty much essential for everyone here.
Yeah. You've mentioned this about 5 times, I've been counting, is the communication early from CrossFit to the athletes, knowing going into the season, what is the rules, what needs to happen.
Yeah.
Because that affected you guys quite a bit in the beginning of the year.
Yeah, definitely. I think it affected the team division as a whole too. So, yeah.
Taylor, tell us about the off season, the rest of the year. I know you said you're not quite sure if you're going to compete next year, but are you taking some time off after the games? Are you resting? What are you doing?
I absolutely am taking some time off. I actually think I took like 5 whole days off, no working out, nothing. I went mountain biking for the first time yesterday. Thought it sounded really fun. Got very ambitious, split open my knee.
Oh, wow.
Got some sutures. So yeah, I had one of my classmates actually sew my knee back together yesterday. So that's what my off season has been so far. Just trying new stuff.
That must be great because, you know, being an athlete, injuries is obviously a possibility. And when you get injured, there were so many athletes that got injured prior to the Open, during quarterfinals, and then at the games itself. So being able to go outside and have that risk of, I'll split my knee open and it will be fine. If I sprain my ankle, it will be fine.
Yep. Yeah, that's kind of what I think I want to do, is kind of get out of the CrossFit box for a little bit and kind of do some new stuff. Been really excited to try to do some stuff, like some new activities, but like you said, a little bit hesitant before the games because I know there's like an injury risk there. So even just like a small injury, like you have a little cut on your knee, well, I'm probably not going to be able to squat for a couple of days at least, just while it heals. So that would have affected games training a lot, or just like wearing knee sleeves and stuff. So it's a lot of little things that you don't think about unless you're kind of in the scenarios where you're being asked to do a lot of working out every day, keep up your volume, make sure you're doing all the movements. You don't want to like lose the ability to do that just for going on a little bike ride. It's not worth the risk. But now that kind of that pressure isn't there anymore, it's going to be fun to kind of go out there and do some real sports.
Wedding wise, you engaged? Is there a wedding happening this year now that you have a little bit more time?
Yes, December 29th.
Oh, wow.
Still have to do a lot of planning for that. But yeah, I think I have my dress fitting next Saturday.
That's very exciting.
So we're making progress there.
Were you guys planning from the beginning of the year through all of this chaos, or like is it now, like since the games have settled, that you guys can actually put in more time and effort and so on?
Yeah, it's definitely been on the back burner. And I am a pretty laid back bride, so I don't really know what I'm doing, and I don't have a whole lot of like strong preferences. I'm like, oh yeah, that looks good, let's do that. But yeah, now that the games are over, that's something that we got to kind of, start thinking about and figuring out. So we have a venue. So we kind of have all the like hard stuff done, just kind of figuring out all the details from there.
A very stressful beginning of 2021 and a very successful ending to your year. I think looking back, it was worth it. Yeah. If I have to speak for you now, it's very presumptuous for me, but I mean, you stood on top of the podium. You guys had you have the affiliate cup back home, and you have a wedding that's coming up. Tell us if the listeners and the watchers on YouTube want to follow you on social media, see what you're up to, training and so on. Are we all addicted to watching the elite athletes, throw it down in their gyms? Where can they follow you?
You can follow me on Instagram, T_Will7. That's the one I use the most. So you want to follow me, see what I'm doing, keep up with my life, see my dog.
I saw your dog there. What's his name? Her name? His name?
Bruce. He's actually been in my lap this whole time.
Oh, hi, Bruce. How cute.
Yeah.
There we go.
He's sleeping.
Awesome. Oh, shame. Taylor, it's been an absolute privilege to chat to you. I really, really enjoyed getting to know you a bit more and what happened in your season. Both you and Nick were quite, not vocal, but you spoke about it a bit on social media about the challenges that you had this year. And I'm very happy that everything turned out well, and now you've got a little bit of a breather and having a great ending to your year. So thanks again for taking the time. It was awesome, and all the best. And hopefully we'll see you back on the competition floor with Team Mayhem next year.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Just Elite. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and please, please, please leave a comment.